Would you rescue me? Would you get my back? Would you take my call when I start to crack? Would you rescue me? Would you rescue?
Then they should have put 4 chairs.
You are somebody that I don't know, but you're taking shots at me like it's Patron, and I'm just like, damn.
Tell you that you might be
It's 7 a.m.
like end early. Okay.
Say it in the street, that's a knockout, but you say it in a tweet, that's a cop out, and I'm just like, hey.
Okay. Because he's like, oh, I'll give it to somebody else. So I was like, yeah, because I'm not doing that.
And I ain't trying to mess with your self-expression, but I've learned a lesson that stressing and obsessing about somebody else is no fun. And snakes and stones never broke my bones, so you need to calm down. You're being too loud, and I'm just like, you need to just stop. Like, can you just not slip on my gown? You need to calm down. You are somebody that we don't know, but you're coming at my friends like a missile. Why are you mad when you could be glad? You could be sunshine on the street at the parade, but you would rather be in the dark age. Just making that sign must have taken all night. You just need to take several seats and then try to restore the peace and control your urges to scream about all the people you hate. 'Cause shade never made anybody less gay, so you need to calm down. You're being too loud, and I'm just like, you need to just stop. Like, can you just not step on his gown? You need to calm down. And we see you over there on the internet, comparing all the girls who are killing it. But we figured you out, we all know now. We all got crowns, you need to calm down. You need to calm down, you need to calm down. You're being too loud, being too loud. And I'm just like, you need to just stop. Can you stop? Like, can you just not step on our gowns? You need to calm down.
Hey boy, what you say, boy? You tryna play coy like a game boy? Hit my phone, boy. Is your homeboy? Are you alone, boy? Come give me dome, boy. Got a boy with degrees, a boy in the streets, a boy on his knees, he a man in the sheets. Sheesh, it's all Greek to me. Got this boy speaking Spanish. Ay, papi. Baby, I don't need you. I just wanna freak you. I heard you a freak too. What's 2 plus 2? 4, 3, 2, ow! Make a girl go crazy! 3, 2, ow! Make a girl go crazy! I like big boys, itty bitty boys. Mississippi boys and the city boys. I like the pretty boys with the bow tie. Get your nails did, let it blow dry. I like a big beard, I like a clean face. I don't discriminate, come and get a taste. From the playboys to the gay boys. Go and slay boys, you my fave boys. Baby, I don't need you. I don't need. I just wanna freak you. I want it. I heard you a freak too. That's right. What's 2 plus 2? 4, 3, 2. Ow! Make a girl go crazy. 3, 2. Ow! Make a girl go crazy. 3, 2. Ow!
My chest broken in half, head rush right from the start. Oh no, I don't wanna let it show. Undressed, all of my doubts, naked, with or without no clothes, and I don't even feel that cold. Just the thought of letting go makes me wanna pull you closer, close enough so you can whisper every word. Run your fingers through my hair, drawing pictures on my shoulder, waiting for the time for you to say it first. I want you to lay with me. I don't know where this is going. Every time we touch is gold. Want you to lay with me. Nothing can be left unspoken. Every time we touch is golden. Bed sheets cover the floor, bodies keeping us warm all night. We don't have no sense of time. You're like adrenaline rushing through my bloodstream. Is this love? 'Cause I can't seem to get enough. Just the thought of letting go makes me wanna pull you closer, close enough so you can whisper every word. Run your fingers through my hair, drawing pictures on my shoulder, waiting for the time for you to say.
Hello, everyone. Hi. So this is actually a very small session, and so if we could have actually everyone come forward and maybe either come to the middle or the first rows on each side, to give our speakers a lovely warm reception instead of just kind of spreading around and they could barely see you. So can we have everyone kind of move up, please? Please? Not really, no. There's a lot of emptiness right here. There's only like 50 of you, 70 of you in the session. Thank you. So yeah, come on up. All right, so in order to, stay on schedule with the time that we're supposed to start because we're running a little behind and we want to give our lovely speakers all the time that they deserve, we are going to get started. So, hello, buenas tardes. Thank you for coming to this session. I have the honor to welcome you to the iLead the World as a Change Agent session in which you are in. So if you're not supposed to be here, it's your time to go. And so today we have 4 phenomenal individuals who are going to share with you their leadership experience through the lens of being a change agent. And so we're going to go on this leadership journey through topics like changing the world from their world, using their passions to make a difference, to how the fear of failure can motivate you, to staying motivated through triumphs and tribulations, and then bringing it all home with mobilizing others to want to struggle. So please give a warm reception for our first individual. Bring it on home.
Good afternoon. How do I remove this device? Oh, okay. Oh, neat. How neat is that? Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Koji Sims. Some of you may remember me from 2 years ago. I spoke about fear and how to overcome it. But today, I want to discuss what we as individuals can do as little things, because little things add up to big things, and we all like big things, right? Do you like big things? Okay. I work at a Title I school. Some of you may have heard this already this morning. Thanks for coming back. But for those of you who don't know, Title I is just a classification for a school that has a majority of students who are classified as economically disadvantaged. And there are a lot of ways to talk about that, but basically that means that there are a lot of unique challenges that come along with those students in those communities, but there are also a lot of unique opportunities. And so I'm one of those people who is hired to work in a classroom, not as a teacher, but with the teacher, and help fill educational gaps so the students can get back on track for graduation. That's my job. But my duty every day is to be the best servant leader in the city, at least as best as I can be, so that our students have someone who cares and who shows up and who's really invested in their future and in their education. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, give me that. So there are lots of ways to do that, and I think we all have some idea of what bad leadership looks like. But what does that really mean? And to illustrate that, I want to give you some examples of what I do day to day, week to week, but I also want to tell you about something that I experienced a couple years ago. I was doing an internship in Hong Kong, and I might have mentioned this to a few people before, but I was leaving. It's like the last night there, and I had the opportunity to meet and work with and just spend time with refugees from all over the world. And one of them, a young man from India named Smile, his name was For Real Smile. What a cool guy. Yeah, isn't that sweet? He was really sweet too, oh my God. He was saying to me, Koji, I don't want you to forget about us. Please remember the time that you spent here and remember us because we're your friends, we're your family, and you're always welcome back here. I was like, Smile, oh my God, that is the nicest thing anybody has ever said to me. And of course I will. How could I forget, 1, someone named Smile, but 2, how could I forget the things that you've taught me and the way that you've impacted me and the way that you've allowed me to show up and participate in your life. And I have to say, there was another young man from Uganda, Austin, and he was a refugee, like many of them, not by choice, but he was attending a conference in Hong Kong, and because the government of Hong Kong saw he was from Uganda, they just held him. They thought that he had come to the country illegally, he had a return flight ticket, it was a really weird situation. And so he and a couple other people also said to me, Koji, a lot of the interns who come here, they spend time with each other. There's a whole cohort of up to 100 or 20 people who do different jobs in different departments around the nonprofit. And he said it meant a lot to us as people who are displaced, as people who don't want to be here necessarily, and as people who are just out of their element, that you, who was also out of his element, but who didn't have any necessity to interact with us, you still made the effort to. You still showed up and you sat down with us, you asked us questions, you told us about yourself, you had lunch with us, you just had fun. And then 2 years on, just a couple weeks ago, I had a phone call with one of the directors, a man named David, and he was telling me that people still talk about that. They still feel that, the people who are still there. And I gotta say, you don't get to tell stories like this unless you're showing up. Does that make sense? You don't get to have that kind of impact unless you care enough to actually do it. And so when I say that my job is to fill gaps in education, I know that that can be difficult to qualify, but what I do is, I greet my students at the door every morning. Some of you were in my session this morning. We do power greetings, so I am there before the sun is up at 7 o'clock in the morning, yelling and hooting and hollering and dancing, because I want my students to know that we are engaged, we have energy, and boy, oh boy, are we here to give it to you. And we want them to feel like they have room, they have space, they have someone to talk to so that they can feel that energy and deliver it to someone else. Because a lot of our students, this is a deficit approach, but they have low motivation, they don't have the foundations they need often, and maybe they just don't have a whole lot of interest or confidence at school. And that's fine, it's not good, bad, right, or wrong, but if we want to change that, if we want to rectify it, then there are things that we have to do, and often it's not a big thing. Like, yeah, we have laws that we can pass, and there are programs that we can have like mine, but it doesn't solve the problem overnight. You aren't going to pass a law and fix everything. You have to be there for the long term. You have to have patience. You have to have commitment. You have to show up. And so I think that we need to stop viewing change as something that happens to us, and we need to start viewing change as something that we create. The theme for this year is a Gandhi quote, right? Be the change you want to see in the world. You can't create change unless you are enacting it yourself. You can't create change unless you have decided this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to show up, this is how it's going to be, and I'm ready to do that for 10 years. Because if you have come here today and you think that you're going to go home and practice some new leadership stuff for a week, cool. I hope that would go as well for you. And this might sound a little harsh, but I promise that kind of short-term thinking is not what's going to change everything. A mentor of mine, my manager, he says, we need to stop being reactionary. We need to be proactive. And the way that we do that is we ask not what is happening. Let's say a student has an outburst in class, or someone has an argument in your classroom, or you and your friend had a falling out. We need to start asking what just happened. We need to start asking why is this happening, so that we can backtrack and determine how are we going to move forward and figure out what to do in the future. Because unless we understand the purpose behind something, unless we understand the history, we're not going to be able to understand the future that we have possible for us. And there's a great Mos Def quote from a 1999 album called Black on Both Sides. I'm pretty sure it's just in the very first track, like the intro track. And he's saying, people keep asking, like, where is hip-hop going? How's hip-hop doing? And he said, we need to recognize that hip-hop comes from the people. So if we want to know where hip-hop is going, we got to ask, well, how are we doing? Where are we going? And so I implore you to think about that, because if you see that there are problems in your community and your society and you want to fix them, well, one, we got to ask where are they coming from, but we also have to ask what would be relevant to the people in that community, what would work for them, what would help them, what would make them feel valued, and what would solve that problem realistically in the long term. And so if you see people in a community in need and you want them to feel like they have pride in their community, but there's trash everywhere, well, then you have to start picking up the trash, because if they see that it's dirty, then they're not going to feel pride in it. They're going to feel like this is a trash heap, and why would anybody come here? If you want people to feel like they are a member of the community, you have to introduce yourself. You have to engage in conversation. You have to show up and put on events that make them feel like they are meant to be there, they can be there, they're proud to be there, and there's somewhere to go afterward. If you want someone to feel like they matter to you, then you have to make sure that they matter to you. Show up, engage, make eye contact, tell a joke, give a high five. It can be a little thing, but I promise you, those little things do add up, and if you keep doing them, maybe nobody ever tells you, maybe you don't see it happen, but I promise you it does. Because if you think of any social change movement ever, it didn't happen unilaterally. It didn't happen with one person. It happened with a community, a society deciding this is our priority, this is where we're headed, this is what we're going to do. And so I want you to think on a smaller scale, like, what's working, what's not, what will I do differently? And until you've answered those questions, I think we still have places to go. This was a little short, but I thank you so much for your time. I hope that you have a fabulous rest of your day. And I'd like to introduce one of my favorite speakers ever, a phenomenal young woman, the one and only published author, Gabby Gibson.
Picture this. A young girl, about 5 or 6 years old, that never leaves the house without her blue Cinderella dress-up gown. She believes in the magic of pixie dust, of fairy tales, and in the magic of happily ever afters. She believes in hiding a flashlight under her pillow so that she can binge read every single fairy tale. She believes in the magic of diaries and in journals because she wants to rewrite the story to where she is the hero of every fairy tale she reads. Spoiler alert. That young girl is me. The other day I was asked if I could give a piece of advice to my younger self, what would it be? And after pondering some very great advice, like don't be afraid to eat that last chocolate chip cookie, or dance like no one is watching, I came across a bit more practical advice. And so I started writing a letter to my younger self. I started writing, "Dear younger Gabby, every princess will struggle. Sometimes fairy tales are hard." And I remember stopping right there with the pen on the page because for the young girl who believed in fairy tales and in pixie dust and happily ever afters, that happily ever after didn't seem so happy. But in this, I think it's important to realize and to share that the reality of leadership and the reality of fairy tales isn't always happy. It isn't always perky. So when we think about this, leadership is the art of mobilizing others to want to struggle for shared aspirations. One more time, leadership is the art of mobilizing others to want to struggle for shared aspirations. And so my question to you today is, do you want to struggle? Before I get too ahead of myself, let me introduce myself. My name is Gabby Gibson, and I have the immense privilege of serving this university in the higher education program here at FAU as a graduate assistant for the Office of New Student Transitions and Family Engagement. In my past life, I served this university as a resident assistant in Parliament Hall, an elite OWL leadership ambassador, and a proud sister of Alpha Zeta Delta. I even earned an internship through the Career Center making magic for the mouse himself on the Disney College program. Now, as you can probably imagine, the leadership in my undergrad was a catalyst for the fairy tale that I have always dreamed of. It was kind of like Mia in the Princess Diaries Part 1. I felt like I had regained my voice, found confidence in who I was, and was now building a leadership journey in a fairy tale that was mine. It was supposed to be moving forward. And so when I pursued my master's degree, it was supposed to be the most epic sequel of the most magical undergrad experience that I had ever thought of. Pursuing my master's was supposed to be my fairy tale. It was supposed to feel like pixie dust. It was supposed to feel like strength. It was supposed to feel like smooth sailing, like the princess at the end of the movie who has it all together. I'm gonna get really vulnerable with you all, and I hope that in a couple of moments we can get vulnerable together. The transition into my undergrad felt like less than a fairy tale. I went from knowing a lot to having to take a step back, unlearn everything, and be humble enough to learn and relearn things. I went from organized color codes in my calendar to smudge reminders written on the back of my hand, and you would think that if it was written on the back of my hand, I would know it like the back of my hand, but that just isn't the case. I went from feeling like I knew everything, feeling like I knew myself, to not knowing what day it was and having to ask questions. And if you know me, I hate asking questions. It made my chest feel heavy. It made it feel like the room was spinning and like every eye was on me. It didn't feel like a fairy tale at all. It felt like I was a fraud, like I was a failure. I was ready to quit. Younger Gabby was ready to hang up her tiara. And so let's pause. And I'm going to ask you all to join me in a moment of being vulnerable together because I want us to struggle together. I want us to rewrite this narrative together. So close your eyes and raise your hand. How many of you have ever felt like you've been face down in an arena after feeling like you're on the top of your glory, at the top of your game? Keep your hand raised. How many of you have ever felt like you had one chapter of your story where it was a phenomenal success, where you had your happily ever after, and now it feels like you're looking at failure? Okay, hands down. Now open your eyes. My hand is raised because we're in the same boat. So how do we persist? How do we pursue? How do we push on? How do we lead when we are both the opportunity and the obstacle? Now, the reality is that leadership is hard. Transitions are hard. Fairy tales are hard. But the good thing is that the magic of it all is not impossible. You see, the magic is in our hands when we write the narrative, when we define what the story is. And so I want to leave you all with 3 pieces of magic to ensure that you are the one living, leading, and writing your legacy. Number 1, you have nothing to prove and everything to share. Too often, I think we see leadership in the light of how much we're doing. But when you have nothing to prove and everything to share, your fairy tale isn't worth the competition and comparison because it's yours and no one else's. So if you don't stand in your storyline and you don't redefine that narrative for yourself, who does? Number 2, challenge the process because sometimes it doesn't take hard work, it takes different work. Transitioning into a new chapter is hard because you know how the last chapter was written. And so in my undergrad, I knew exactly the leader that I was. But going in and leveling up means that sometimes we have to lay a new foundation, and breaking that ground is a non-negotiable. I was talking to Dr. Katie Burke one day, and she said, sitting at a new seat and sitting at different tables is hard. There's a lot of responsibility behind that, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't sit there. In that, I want to challenge each of you today to sit in those seats, wiggle around in that discomfort just a little bit, and rise to the occasion of rewriting your narrative. And finally, number 3, leadership is an ongoing process, and so is your fairy tale. Too often as leaders, we want to come to that halt, the happily ever after. But leadership doesn't just stop there. It's an everyday thing, constantly reflecting, constantly refining, constantly being in revision. It takes work. It takes wanting to struggle. And that's why I ask you, do you want to struggle? So, the truth is, I am not a damsel in distress, but I also will never be the princess at the end of the story who has it all together. I will always have something written on the back of my hand so I can remember something. So if I had one piece of advice to give younger Gabby, I would say, fairy tales are tough, but you, my princess, are tougher. The fairy tale ends when someone wants to struggle. The pixie dust is in the perseverance. So pick up your pen and write your narrative.
My name is Sherry Reed, and I'm in the midst of a quarter-life crisis. I know, I came to tell the sad story, guys. About 2 weeks ago, I came to the realization that I defined my life's purpose and value solely on my ability to please my loved ones. This little problem brought back a decade's worth of pain and adversity reeling back into my life. I'm here today to tell you how it all fell apart and what remains. So here's the story. In 2011, I entered high school as a miserable and overworked young woman. The cause? I'd been grappling for a few years with the concept of owning my future. Yes, I had free will. I was the first to be able to afford clothes and shoes to wear to go to school out of my family. I was the first to excel without the ceiling of adversity closing in on my opportunities. But no one would know how damaging the burden of being first could be. I was the first to watch my father verbally, financially, and occasionally physically abuse my mother into submission. The first to bear the burden of being an unplanned pregnancy. The first to watch bittersweet visits from siblings who wished that they could raise me without having to battle with my father or swim against the political currents that made obtaining a visa nearly impossible. I was also the first to be a problem child because I didn't really conform to my parents' beliefs and ideas, and I actively tried to voice my thoughts and opinions on things. I mean,
Can you think about trying to explain the concept of generalized anxiety and depression to someone who thinks mental illness does not exist? How could you? How could I tell my parents that scraping and scratching a living out of nothing was not enough to cure an unstable and broken family? I couldn't do that. Besides, there was so much promise for an American like me. I could be a doctor or a lawyer. I could excel past their expectations and become someone who could bring them the good life. And didn't they deserve that? Didn't they deserve to live the good life since they'd provided me with clothes, shoes, somewhere to live, something to eat? So I did just that. I spent the first few years of my life trying to prove myself worthy of the title of golden child. My FCAT scores in elementary school superseded all the scores in the Tri-County area. The governor of Florida signed my plaque that year. I was asked 3-4 times to skip grades in middle school and high school, and I stayed in gifted programs and advanced placement classes. I was the golden child. But oh, how heavy is the head that bears a crown. My first elementary poetry books were filled with dark dreams. Maybe if I had disappeared, no one would miss me. Maybe if my parents had one less mouth to feed, their situation wouldn't be so desperate. How could I help thinking that way? So I set myself a goal. By the end of June 2015, I would graduate with the notoriety, wealth, and fame needed to provide my family with a good life, or I would give up. Well, unfortunately, I had given up before I'd started, if I'm honest with all of you. It felt like nothing would be good enough if it came from me. It felt like it didn't matter how many times I tried, how much hours I put in, nothing would be worth it. So I spent my time working hours and hours at my job at Ross Dress for Less, doing my advanced placement classes best that I could, and trying to find a way to rid the universe of my unworthy presence. But it didn't end that way, folks. Teachers and friends of mine took it upon themselves to teach me my self-worth. They brought me a new support system out of my poetry club, and by the grace of God, Sherry Linvelyn Reed made it to the 12th grade and got her high school diploma. I made it. And I promised myself I would never judge my self-worth ever again. August 2015 came up, people, and I swam for dear life. I went in, going from literary studies to choir, and then going from there to Ross Dress for Less by bus, taking 3, and made it at 11 p.m. at night, and still went home to study. I knew that I could do it, so I kept trying. But things don't always work out the way that we intend them to. I thought I could make it through college virtually unscathed. I thought that all my dreams could come to fruition. I could be a best-selling author, a famous musician, a poet, a public speaker. And it worked for a really long time. Or so I thought. Anxiety and depression started to return. Managing all these responsibilities started to get very difficult for me. I found myself losing hope, but I couldn't just stop. I couldn't just let go of every single thing that I'd worked so hard for. I had to make it. So I focused on my English degree, I reframed my life, and I kept trying. Kept trying and writing my maybes. Maybe it will get better. Maybe I'm just burnt out. I just need a little sleep. And I kept writing that into my senior year of this year, 2019. And 2 weeks ago, I broke. I sat in the arms of my boyfriend of 6 years, telling him that I hadn't changed my mindset in the last 4 years. Yes, I saw life worth living now. It was worth being alive. If I could repay my debts to all the people who had invested in my future. I had to buy that house for my mother. I had to look my father in the eye and say, "Joke's on you, I made it." I needed them to know that I did more than enough. I needed myself to know that I did more than enough. And after a while of sitting there and sobbing, my boyfriend looked into my eyes and said to me honestly, "Sherry, if there was no one for you to live for, would you want to live?" I couldn't find myself answering that question with a yes. My point here is not to make a Saturday afternoon a difficult to traverse for you folks. My point is more serious than that. My point is that everyone here knows somebody who is sacrificing their life, their energy, their time for someone who wants an unfair share of their dream. From the DACA students that are here trying to prove that even though they're not an American, they deserve an education. To those of you who made the decision to make it here today and were told to come not because they thought you were a leader, not because, oh, you're going to be great on your student organization, but because they thought you weren't a leader. I am here today to tell you that you are more than enough. You are more than a Z number in a file or a cog in the machine or even a product of your parents. You define your destiny. Don't you ever let somebody hold up a measuring stick to your success, because you define what success is. Now, I know there's still time in the day, so as you're going to your remaining workshops, as you're enjoying our wonderful speakers, I want you to take a moment and hold a mirror up to your mind. And I want you to think carefully. What can you see in yourself that no one else can see? What makes you feel fulfilled and contented in life? Not what makes your family happy. What makes you happy, period. I'm determined to find that out for myself. I know that I want to help young leaders like yourselves to make some great decisions, to empower the future, to change things in this world. I know that my quadruple threat dreams are still on the horizon. I will be an author, I will be a musician, I will be a poet, and I am a public speaker because I'm in front of you today. In the meanwhile, I'm contented with knowing that the person that I am today is living for herself. Thank you. Caught my seat.
Can we give Sherry another round of applause, please? Thank you so much for your words. So my name is Marvell Joseph, and I'm here to talk about staying motivated. There's a quote by Ernest Hemingway that I want to preface with that goes a little something like this. Today is only one day in all the days that will ever be. But what will happen in all the other days that ever come can depend on what you do today. So my name is Marvell Joseph, and I want to tell you a story. So I'm a recent transfer student from Florida State University, but I love FAU a little bit more. But even though I love this university so much, my life has been a little difficult. You see, I grew up always being usually the tallest person in the room, so kind of been deemed to be a leader in my classroom. I remember in kindergarten when I got deemed line leader for 2 weeks, and that was the pinnacle for me. I thought I'd made it. I was the line leader of 8-year-olds, right? Then I got to a middle school, and I was class president, class representative, and these were things that were so cool to me. High school, same thing. Then I get to college, and I took my leadership to a new level. I decided I was going to fight for those who were voiceless. I was going to be the voice for those who had continuously been unheard. And it was going pretty well up until November 10th, 2016. See, a day that I can never forget. As I sat in my apartment in Tallahassee, a security guard broke into my door saying that he had heard a noise complaint from our neighbors from a party that we held 30 minutes earlier. And as I turned around to him to tell him that he wasn't allowed in my home, he pulled out a gun on me and said a phrase that I will never forget. "Don't take another step towards me, you nigger boy." You nigger boy. You see, I told myself that I would always be the voice of the voiceless. And now I was in a situation where I was voiceless. How could I speak up when my life was now in danger? So after weeks of sitting in my room crying, not knowing who to talk to, not knowing who I could go to, and not knowing what I should do, I found hope in one of the greatest civil rights leaders of all time, Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in August of 1963 proclaimed 4 words that a lot of us know. I have a dream. Now, for most of us, we've read the entirety of that speech, and the rest of us only know those 4 words. But those 4 words are very influential to what would transpire later throughout his life. You see, just 2 months after that speech happened, 4 children would lose their lives in a white supremacist bombing of a church. But yet, Dr. Martin Luther King never lost that dream. And he continued to persevere and say that I still have that dream. So in 1965, when he approaches Selma and gets onto what is now known as Bloody Sunday, that same dream was still within him. And it's because of that dream that in 2008, a guy with a weird name from Chicago, Illinois, could become president of the United States. And he would proclaim not that he had a dream, but that, yes, we can. And that, yes, we can overcome all the fears and all the obstacles that may come our way. And that, yes, we can defy all odds. And yes, we can continue to persevere throughout whatever we do. So I remembered these 2 men as I sat in my room and said that I have to stay motivated. I have to continue to be who I am, even when the world many times doesn't want to see me succeed. So I'm here to tell you a few things. One is simple. If you have a dream, then yes, you can. If you have a dream, and if you have been deemed as a leader by your organization, or even just your community as a whole, yes, you can. Yes, you can continue to defy all odds. Yes, you can continue to be the person that you aspire to be. But most importantly, throughout it all, we can and we shall overcome. Because today is only one day in all the days that will ever be. But what will happen in all the other days that ever come can depend on what you do today. Thank you.
All right. Is this on? Can y'all hear me? How about another round of applause for our wonderful speakers? So I do just want to take the time, I think on behalf of all the speakers today, to thank you all for letting us share such a sacred space with you all. Being able to sit down on something so intimate with you all and sharing our stories is such a humbling experience, and we hope that you all will take that and do with it what you will. But I think my kind of question for all of our speakers today is we've gotten to hear a lot of these stories and get the personal insight of how you all are leading and changing the world as change agents. So what can our audience do right now before they leave this room to go ahead and share their stories just like us?
Would you like me to answer?
Sure.
Oh, okay. What can they do before they leave? I mean, one thing, and people say it all the time, but I don't think it's overrated, like talk to somebody. Like text somebody right now or tweet something. Just like, hey, this is what I learned today, and that was really neat. You call a friend on the way home and tell them, like, this is what I'm thinking about, and I just want to let you know. Or like, what do you think about this? And most importantly, I mean, we're here. So if you have a question for one of us, especially these 3, I mean, by all means, ask it. And if there's something that you've thought about, you know now that there's a venue for you to speak about it. So please take advantage of those opportunities, you know?
Awesome. Yeah, and I think kind of going along with that sentiment is talking to someone, but also remembering that people who share the stage with you, we're just as human as you are. And that's such an important thing to remember going into your leadership, is that leadership is that relationship. And we want you all to have that relationship with us. But it's so important to remember the human side of everything. And that's where the connection starts. So sometimes you got to reach down and be vulnerable with people. So never miss out on an opportunity to do that. What about you, Sherry?
I wanted to answer that question too. I think a thing is remembering to set habits. Like, a lot of people believe that what you're doing is something like, oh, Usher or Kendrick Lamar or Logic, they suddenly just appeared on the scene. No. That was 7, 8, sometimes decades worth of energy before anybody could see it or hear it. So you have to know that you have to be your own cheerleader first. You're going to be the one repping for everything that you want to do. So find out what your passion is and hold on to that, because that's what you're going to spend most of your time doing. And when you start forming those habits, don't try to pull those big chunks off one at a time. My big thing with this speech, even trying to prepare for it, was every day just take a little look, spend 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. Then the next day, spend 10 minutes. Start with that process, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think my best advice would probably go with just being yourself. Everyone's leadership style is different. So never try to conform to what you think is the best form of leadership. Like, if anyone knows me personally, yeah, I'm like kind of in a suit or whatever, but I'm also one of the most laid back leaders because I know that that's what works best for me. But a lot of times when we try to emulate someone else, it kind of hurts our own vision and our own personalities, and we can't be as effective in those situations. So that's my advice with regards to that.
All right, so let's give our iLead the World speakers a round of applause, please. And so, as Marlon said at the very beginning, and I hope she said this is an all call. So we literally put this out to the masses. As you heard, we have alum, we have current students sharing their experience of leading the world from where they stand. And that's what we want to do with iLead. And so 2 of our students are current, we have alum as well. So if you are moved by this and you have a story that you will move the masses, or be like, I'm going to move you right next to me. Be on the lookout, because we always want to hear the stories, and we want to hear your stories that you are willing, as they said, they're vulnerable, willing to share with all of us at iLead 2020, if not at We Lead come January of next year. All right? So give them a round of applause. That is it. So all the workshops that are happening right now are all going to be making their way back here. So if you're cool with the seat that you got, even better. If you want to move closer, that's even better. But everyone's going to start coming back in here for our closing keynote, who is getting ready right now. So make yourselves at home. Literally, there's no transition because you're already transitioned here. All right? So go ahead, start moving around, come up closer, and everyone else will be starting making their way back in.
But please just let me get this out of my system. There's something I need you to know. God knows I want you to know. That's only one thing that could ease on my mind. Yeah, and I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it. I want you now. I want the world to know. Can I let you go? I want you now. I want the world to know. Can I let you go? I'm just gonna say it out loud. You wanna stay a while? Let me tell you, I want you now. I want the world to know. Can I let you go? I'm just gonna say it out loud. You wanna stay a while? Let me tell you. Breaking the sorrow, better turn down the lights. I can be sober, no, I don't wanna lie. There's something I need you to know. God knows I want you to know. There's only one thing that could ease up my mind. Yeah, and I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it. I want want you now. I want the world to know. Can I let you go? I want you now. I want the world to know. Can I let you go? I'm just gonna say it out loud. You wanna stay a while. Let me tell you, I want you now. I want the world to know. Can I let you go? I'm just gonna say it out loud. You wanna stay a while. Let me tell you. I'm just gonna say it out loud. You wanna stay a while. Can I let you go? I want you now. I want the world to know. Can I let you go? I want you now. I want the world to know. Can I let you go?
Got me feeling like the elephant in every room I'm walking into. Yeah, we started out innocent till I got pulled right into your issue. Yeah, I'm tired of sending hugs and kisses. Got me feeling like the elephant in every room I'm walking into. Yeah, we started out innocent till I got pulled right into your issue. Yeah, I'm tired of sending hugs and kisses. I'm tired of all your burning bridges. It's like, damn, why you gotta be so cold in the summertime? Summertime, I was really rooting for you. Yeah, I was really rooting for you. Yeah, yeah. It's like, man, why you gotta be so cold in the summertime? Summertime, I was really rooting for you. We were really rooting for you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now I see you having so much fun with everyone. You had so much fun making fun of. Did you come and bump your head? Did you forget where you came from? I'm tired of sending my well wishes. I'm tired of all your burning bridges. It's like, damn, why you gotta be so cold in the summertime? Summertime, I was really rooting for you. Yeah, I was really rooting for you. Yeah, yeah. It's like, man, why you gotta be so cold in the summertime? Summertime, I was really rooting for you. We were really rooting for you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not even broken hearted. I'm just a little disappointed. What a shame, we could have had a good thing. You let go of a good thing. It's like, damn, why you gotta be so cold in the summertime? Summertime, I was really rooting for you. Yeah, yeah, I was really rooting for you. Oh, I was really rooting for you. Damn, why you gotta be so cold in the summertime? Summertime, in the summer, I was really rooting for you. Oh no, we were really rooting for you. We were really rooting for you. It's like, damn, why you gotta be so cold? I was really rooting for you. First you say that we're breaking up, then you tell me you want me back. So why you checking out other chicks so damn much? Now tell me, what do I do with that? Mess up my bed, mess with my head, but I'm not stressing about it. Don't hold your breath, I'm not obsessed, no, I'm not lonely without it. You think I'm so hung up on you, well, I hate to break the news, I don't love you enough to be jealous. I don't care what you say, I don't care what you do, I don't care where you go, I don't care who you are. I got nothing to lose, I don't love you enough to be jealous. You start an argument just for fun, yeah, you like it when I react. I'm getting tired of making love and making up, so tell me, what do I do with that? Mess up my bed, mess with my head, but I'm not stressing about it. Don't hold your breath, I'm not obsessed, no, I'm not lonely without it. You think I'm so hung up on you, well, I hate to break the news, I don't love you enough to be jealous. I don't care what you say, I don't care what you do, I don't care where you go, I don't care who you are. I got nothing to lose, I don't love you enough to be jealous. You think I'm so hung up on you, well, I hate to break the news, I don't love you enough to be jealous. I don't care what you say, I don't care what you do, I don't care where you go, I don't care who you are. I got nothing to lose, I don't love you enough to be jealous.
On a Saturday night in the summer, sundown and they all come out. Lamborghinis and they rented hummus. The party's on, so they're heading downtown. Everybody's looking for a come up, and they wanna know what you're about. Me in the middle with the one I love it. We're just trying to figure everything out. We don't fit in well, 'cause we are just ourselves. I could use some help getting out of this conversation. Yeah, you look stunning, dear, so don't ask that question here. This is my only fear, that we become beautiful people. Top designer clothes, front row fashion shows. What you do and who'd you know? Inside the world of beautiful people. Champagne and roll up nose, prenups and broken homes. Surrounded but still alone. Let's leave the party. That's not who we are. We are not beautiful. Yeah, that's not who we are. We are not beautiful. Drove for hours last night and we made it nowhere. I see stars in your eyes when we're halfway there. I'm not fazed by all the lights and flashy cameras, 'cause with my arms around you, there's no need to care. We don't fit in well, we are just ourselves. I could use some help getting out of this conversation here. You look stunning, so don't ask that question here. This is my only fear, that we become Beautiful people. Top designer clothes. Front row at fashion shows. What you do and who'd you know? Inside the world of beautiful people. Champagne and rolled up nose. Prenups and broken homes. Surrounded but still alone. Let's leave the party. That's not who we are. We are not beautiful. Yeah, that's not who we are. We are not beautiful. We are not beautiful.
I need the kind of love that can outlast the night. I need the kind of love that is willing to fight when the going gets tough and my strength's not enough. I see you showing up like never before. This battle for my heart, you took on from the start. You are the peace when my mind's at war. And oh, you will never stop fighting for me when I can't fight for myself. Every word is a promise you keep, 'cause you love me like nobody else. You stand up for me in the darkest night when my faith is weak. You're still by my side. You will never stop fighting for me. You will never stop fighting for me. In the perfect timing, you make all things right. You paint a silver lining in this heart of mine. When the going gets tough and my strength's not enough, I see you showing up like never before. This battle for my heart, you took on from the start. You are the peace when my mind's at war. And oh, you will never stop fighting for me when I can't fight for myself. Every word is a promise you keep, 'cause you love me like nobody else. You stand up for me in the darkest night when my faith is weak. You're still by my side. You will never stop fighting for me. You will never stop fighting for me. Your love is winning me over. Your heart is pulling me closer. Your love is winning me over. Your heart is pulling me closer. You will never stop fighting for me, fighting for me. Every word is a promise you keep. You will never stop fighting for me when I can't fight for myself. Every word is a promise you keep.
Hello, owls. Well, we are about to start in the next 2 minutes. Please take a seat. Thank you.
You will never stop fighting for me. 2 weeks and 7 days since I left. Who's counting anyway? But for me, the only thing that's changed is the distance between New York and LA. 7 months, 2 weeks and 7 days since I was so easily replaced. It's so strange how I recognize her face. Tell me, does she make you feel the same? Kills me to know she's sleeping in my place. It's midnight and I'm wasted, so wasted, I'm wasted. I can't believe I'm calling you up again. I know I might be crazy, so crazy, I'm crazy. I can't believe I'm calling you just to say I'm not okay. I just got you to say I'm not okay. I just got you to say I'm not okay. I'm not okay. Meditate with whiskey and cheap wine, but it don't stop this train wreck in my mind. My friends all say that I will in time, but the truth is it don't give me peace of mind. It's midnight and I'm wasted, so wasted, I'm wasted. I can't believe I'm calling you up again. I know I might be crazy, so crazy, I'm crazy. I can't believe I'm calling you just to say I'm not okay. I just got you to say I'm not okay. I just got you to say.
Does this work? Oh, it does. Welcome back, Owls. How excited are you all here today? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Francine Coker, and I serve as the Assistant Director for Campus Life on the Broward campuses. Today, I have the honor and pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker, Miss Tiffany Lanier. Tiffany is the leading millennium voice in personal growth, self-discovery, conscious leadership, and meaningful work. She's an entrepreneur, a podcaster, a nationally renewed inspirational speaker, and the founder of LPLC 360 Company, a company dedicated to consciously shifting the way we live, lead, and work. Tiffany is fueled by the motto, live purposely and lead consciously, and she challenges her audience to rediscover who they are, what they stand for, and what matters. I would like to welcome to the stage Tiffany Lanier.
I'm mic'd up. Yes. Hello, FAU. Oh, we can do better than that. Hello, FAU. I'm so excited to be here. How has the last 2 days been for you? Good? Really? Was it good or was it great? It was great. I remember these events when I was on my college campus as well. And when I go back and really think about all that I was then and all that I am now, only a little bit has actually changed, and I'll tell you why. So much of who I am today, from speaking to facilitating to coaching to doing podcasting — we didn't actually have podcasts back then, but we had radio — as well as doing videos and anything in between, were things that I did on my college campus. Of course, after graduating, you evolve and you grow a lot. And now I would like to say that my willingness to do a deeper level of inner work, which we'll talk a lot about today, as well as my willingness to fail forward quickly, because that's really the key. You don't want to fail forward slowly. Just do it fast and get it over with. As well as allowing myself to quite literally live out loud with no shame, no guilt, just lessons learned. I think I even manifested that I would be speaking on stages like this while I was in college, long before I knew what the word manifesting even meant. But I remember, I went to Florida State, by the way. I remember being interviewed by a Florida State reporter for the paper. And she asked me that question, because I was probably a junior going into my senior year, and she said, so what are you gonna do after college? I don't know. Like, really, that's like always the answer. Like, I'm not sure. But I said something really interesting that kind of caught me off guard, and I want to tell you how I got there. So I actually started my college experience right here at FAU. That happened. Yes. Woo! And while attending FAU, as a communications major, I had this inkling, this passion for fashion suddenly. And the only state school that had a fashion degree program was Florida State at the time. They no longer have that program. But they did at the time, so I transferred to Florida State, and I pursued apparel design. And after 2 semesters of crying at my sewing machine, I realized that it wasn't for me. So I went back to communications with an emphasis on broadcast journalism. And so you would think my answer would have been, oh, I'm gonna be on the news, or I might do documentaries like Soledad O'Brien. I don't know if you know who Soledad O'Brien is, but she was big back in my day, and I loved her. And that was the vision at the time. But I responded to this reporter with something that I had never really said out loud to myself or anyone else. I said, I'm going to be a motivational speaker. Crazy. And I remember getting that paper back and reading it, and I'm like, why would you say that? Like, where did that even come from? I don't even know if you know what a motivational speaker actually does. And do they even get paid for that? The answer is yes. But I didn't know at the time what that even was. And so what led me to even saying that I would be a motivational speaker was because I was a student leader. I had just become a student leader. I had started a new organization on campus, and I fell in love with facilitating and public speaking. So it was in my student leadership that I realized that I had the ability to do something that I never even knew I could do. And so I want to take you through a little bit of my college journey, because it was actually quite interesting. I started out not wanting to go to college at all. Was anyone like that? It's okay, they won't come for you. I started out not wanting to go to college, but I had an amazing counselor who was like, girl, you're going to college. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're a good student, you have scholarships, you're going. But I just wanted to make money. I didn't want to go and prolong that experience of just starting to make money. And so I went willingly, I did go. And I didn't understand, though, what these institutions really had in store outside of academics. I didn't truly understand all the resources that would be available to me and all the things that I could contribute to my institution. Because in the beginning, I was really working with and within the college, or the basic college trap. Do y'all know what the basic college trap is? No, never heard of it? Let me break it down for you for a moment. So the basic college trap is focusing strictly on schoolwork, partying, I see y'all, and relationship drama. Oh yeah, there was a little more gruntle in the relationship drama. And so I want to share with you how my energy was broken up between the three. So I was caught in this basic college trap. 30% went towards schoolwork. Now you might think that's low, but I did graduate magna cum laude. So, but that's energy, okay? Yeah, you can totally give me a round of applause for that. Thank you. But 30% of my energy went towards schoolwork. 20% of my energy went towards living my best college life, partying, social stuff, events. And I'm almost embarrassed to tell you that 50% which now sounds like a lot, of my energy went towards relationship drama. I know, it's crazy, and some of you are like, oh yeah, me too. But 50% is a big deal, and within that 50%, it was probably 40% boyfriend drama and only 10% friend drama, okay? So it was taking up a lot of my time. And so I don't know who in the audience might need this lesson today. I didn't really come here to tell you this, but you can let them go. Yes. You can let them go. If they are not serving your highest good, if they're not helping you elevate, whether a platonic relationship or a romantic relationship, I am giving you full permission to let them go. I said what I said, all right? Don't make me come out there for y'all, okay? Because you have only so much energy, and it's better spent taking that 50%, if some of y'all are in that spectrum, putting it towards your studies. Yes, amp up that 30%, okay? Put a little bit more in that bucket. Also, personal growth and self-discovery and really taking your college experience to figure things out. But also, why are you here? Who do you want to serve? So take a little bit more out of that relationship pot. I'm not saying just cut off all relationships, okay? Because relationships are great, and I want you to continue to build them, and you learn a lot of lessons. Just don't make it 50%, all right? Let's move past that. Anyway, not here to talk to you about relationships, moving back into leadership. But that was the makeup. 30% schoolwork, 20% living my best college life, and 50% relationship drama. So it took me a summer that I had to be out of commission, basically. I had a foot surgery, actually had 2 foot surgeries the summer of 2008, dating myself just a little. The summer of 2008, I had 2 foot surgeries, and so I basically couldn't go anywhere, I couldn't party or anything anyway. So I had to have this moment of truth with myself. What are you even doing? Like seriously, Tiffany, what are you doing? Reflecting on the first 2 years living in that basic college trap, what are you doing? There's so much more for you to do. You have so much more potential. And something interesting was happening that summer on a national scale. And I don't know, because I know some of y'all are like 10, what was going on in the summer of 2008. But does anyone remember what was happening in the summer of 2008? Elections, yes. Oh yes, oh my goodness, let's not talk about that. But the election was happening, and someone was running for president. Does anyone? Thank you, yes. Okay, I got it, calm down. Barack Obama. Barack Obama was running for president, and I was so inspired by his candidacy and inspired for his vision that he had for the country as well as the world. And I'm like, girl, you can do something else. There is more for you to do. The question was, what more are you going to do? And I wasn't quite sure at the time. I was passionate about a lot of things. I was really concerned about our environment, and I still am. And you would think that we have progressed more, but we haven't. I was concerned that some of my best friends couldn't marry the ones that they love, because we were still determining whether they had that right or not. And then I looked around my college campus, and I saw us come together as a student body, but it was really segregated when I walked around. Everyone only choosing to be with the ones that looked just like them. And it made me question, what's not being communicated? What are we holding against each other? What stereotypes are we considering for not mixing and mingling? So I played with this idea of what I could do, how I could serve, how I could show up and lead. But I was quickly met with apprehension. Quickly, I began to ask all kinds of questions of myself. Can I do this? Is it in me? Am I even capable of leading? Has anyone ever asked any of those questions or something similar? Have you ever felt that way? Yes. It happens to all of us, and it continues to happen. I work with people who are very successful, and they still ask themselves those questions depending on what they're doing. And then all of a sudden, when you get into this mindset of, I don't know if you can do this. Can I really do this? Can you lead? it starts flooding in, right? Fear and doubt just start taking over. Fear and doubt met me at lunch one day, and they ate all of my fries and drank all of my shake. And they come, right? Those are frenemies because we keep them close, but we don't want them near. But fear and doubt is something that many of us are used to. But I don't know if you know the third friend, stories. Stories that don't serve you. Stories that have been put into your mind since you were very little that replay over and over again. And when these three get together, it's like a mean girl trio or a mean dude trio playing in your mind, right? And that's how I felt. It was exploding. Who are you to think that you can lead? Oh, that's an idea. That's not very original. Oh, that's so cute. You think people are going to join your little organization? Nobody cares. Nobody wants that. I don't even know if you're smart enough to pull that off. You're like, dang. These are the thoughts that we think to ourselves, right? These are the thoughts that we repeat to ourselves over and over again until we say, maybe, you know what? Maybe I'm not here to lead. Maybe I don't have it in me. The organization is probably going to fail anyway, so why bother? And that's where most people stop. They stop at, why bother? It was just a fluke, just an idea, let me move on to the next thing. And the doubt and the fear and the stories, those voices in your mind, they keep playing over and over again like a broken record until you feel inadequate, until you start questioning if that idea must have chosen the wrong host, because who am I to bring such awesomeness into this world? The voices, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, they become stories that you hear over and over again. They become the bedtime stories that we tell ourselves every night before we go to sleep. They become the mantras and the affirmations that we repeat to ourselves day in and day out until those old stories become today's truth. And sometimes we forget or we don't recognize that we are powerful today. If you wanna be somebody, if you wanna go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention. Who knows that song? A little bit, because I was really young when it came out too, okay? So don't get it twisted. I was young too. Y'all just wasn't even thought of yet, probably. So we're gonna do something, because I wanna bring a point home, okay? And I need some help. I'm gonna sing a line, and all of y'all are gonna sing with me. Can we do this together? Okay. Y'all are questioning, you're like, I don't know, I said woo, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna need you to be confident, all right? I'm gonna do it first, and then you're gonna do it second. It's gonna be okay. You ready? If you wanna be somebody, if you wanna go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention. I want the pay. Pay attention. Give me the pay. Indulge me. All right, have fun with it. You ready? You better. Y'all did so good. Yay, give yourselves a round of applause for that. You did good. You did so good. Okay, now I'm gonna just indulge myself. I want us to all do it together. Can we all together now? All right. If you wanna go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention. I got lights in the back and everything. It's always been a dream of mine to be like some kind of pop singer, so this is as close as it gets, okay? So y'all gotta indulge me. Thank you. So that's the question. What are you paying attention to? Are you paying attention to the fear? Are you paying attention to the doubt? Are you paying attention to the world and how it moves and how it shakes? But you're not paying attention to how you'll move and how you'll shake it. If you want to be somebody and you want to go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention. Pay attention to who you are. Pay attention to your power. Pay attention to the power behind your individual stories, the power behind your ideas, the power that lies in your values, your character, your ideology, your lens on how you see the world. Because that's what I had to do. I had to start paying attention to what was already mine. And it was events like this that really did inspire me to live and go into my best potential as a leader. That year that I founded the organization, I attended Leadership. Has anyone attended Leadership? Woo! Okay, there's some Leadership people in the house. Alumni, where you at? Scream it out. Okay, LS 09. That's okay. I'm a little, like I said, dating myself just a bit. But Leadership, I learned that leadership was not just a position to be held. Leadership was showing up fully, every day, in every way in integrity, and having a healthy disregard for the impossible. Because anything is possible, right? I learned so many lessons when I was in college. So many things that I still take into my life today. And I'm so proud that I started that organization and outlived me on campus by 5 years. Yes, didn't last forever, but still, think about that legacy of change. That was just an idea in my mind that I created, and others took it on and it became theirs, right? Legacy of change. What does that look like for you while you are on this campus? Unfortunately, though, remember I told you that story about wanting to be a motivational speaker? I literally said it in the paper. Fear and doubt and stories that don't serve us, they aren't just conquered once. They always come back. And what I had to learn is that we're not here to be fearless. That's not what we're all striving for. We're here to learn how to fear less, okay? Fearing less. So as the fear and as the doubt and the stories come to you as you navigate the world and as you embark on new ideas and you level up, they will always be there to tell you, you ain't nothing. And you have to be like, I am everything, right? I am everything. So it would take another 7 or 8 years for me to realize this dream again and say, I am here to be a catalyst for change in this way. I already knew that, but it took me some time to build that confidence muscle. And within the same time, I started to really see what it takes to be a leader and lead from within and be a catalyst for positive, sustainable change, which is what we're actually looking for. You see, I believe that you have a responsibility to humanity and the planet to connect, grow, and become the best version of yourself. To be a catalyst for positive change, you do not have to have a title. You do not have to have a position. You do not have to have an organization or run a successful business. You just have to be willing to better yourself, to better your understanding, to better your actions, to better your mind. I'm wearing a shirt that says, good people do better. Sometimes we get really caught up in the good people syndrome, but there's always work for us good people to do. I like to think that we need to shift the way that we really talk about leadership and really get to what I'm calling next level leader shift. And I've broken it down into 3 levels. So we're gonna navigate those 3 levels right now. And we're gonna try to make it a game. It's not really a game, but you guys are gonna indulge me, okay? So how we're gonna do this and how you're gonna participate, because as you know now, I like my audiences to participate with me, right? I'm gonna say, when we get to each level, shall we proceed? And all you have to say is yes, with conviction, all right? So we're gonna practice. Shall we proceed? Y'all are just so great. So great. Thank you for that. All right. And what I'm going to do to make it sound more like a game, I'm going to change my voice to be like a little more robotic. Indulge me, okay? You're going to laugh at all of my corny jokes. Yes, you are. Welcome to, nope, that's not it. That's not the robotic voice. Welcome to level 1. Personal impact, owning who you are. Hint, in order to get to levels 2 and 3, the only person you need to conquer is yourself. Shall we proceed? Yes. Thanks, I'm back. I bet you thought I went away, right? I'm still here. So you have a responsibility to humanity and the planet to connect, grow, and become the best version of yourself. I want that to sink in for a moment. You, a singular individual, have a responsibility to humanity and the planet to connect and grow and become the best version of yourself. Why? Why so much responsibility for such one individual human being? Well, we're all interconnected, whether you think so or not. We are all passing energy from one person to the next, whether you think so or not. Our actions, our habits, our behavior, our biases, our understanding of the world has an impact on those around you, whether you think so or not. So the greatest gift that you can give to the rest of us is understanding who you are. Francine mentioned in my intro that I live by a very simple yet potent model. And that is to live purposefully and lead consciously. I believe that living purposefully is something that you owe to yourself. But leading consciously is what you owe to everyone else. You owe it to yourself to live on purpose with purpose. And that's discovery. But you owe to the rest of us to lead consciously. And that is inner work. That is self-awareness. Understanding who you are, what you want, why you want it, what matters to you, what you stand for, and what you stand against. You should want to take action and create around your core values, your core understanding of self. But in order to do that, we can't want or we can't allow for TV, people on social media that we don't know, friends, family, society to tell us who we are. We have to explore that for ourselves, and sometimes it takes a lot of learning, and sometimes it takes a lot of unlearning. Why is this so important? Personal impact, owning who you are. Because once we know who we are, we enter like this first level of freedom, personal freedom. We have so much conviction in who we are and what we're about and what we're doing. Therefore, we cannot be shaked because people are always going to try to shake you. People are always going to try to put their life lessons on you. And when you don't have conviction, you'll waver. I believe that we are all equally as powerful. Every single individual in here is powerful, equally. No one above the other. It doesn't matter what race, what sex, what background you have, you are equal in power. Society tells us differently. But what's important is that you know that you are equal, so that you don't live by the societal constructs that have been built for you. It's about breaking out of that and allowing yourself to be who you are and then be better. Because when we are better and we know better, we do better. And we don't only do better by ourselves, we do better by every single person around us. What's important here is that you understand the importance of connection. Connecting to yourself, then connecting to others. To grow and evolve and become and allow for those powerful transitions to set you up with lessons that are so necessary to learn. And as you better yourself, you become more conscious. Consciousness is awareness, ultimately. As you become more conscious, you have the capacity to help and heal those around you, right? Leading by example. So as you do this kind of work on yourself, which could look a lot like therapy, it could look like coaching, it could look like journaling, allowing yourself to just be meditating. All of these are modalities and tools to help you uncover and discover who you are. It could be letting things go that no longer serve your beingness today. And then as you do that work, by just being and being present, you change the lives of those around you. But it really does start with you. Each and every single one of you has the ability to create positive, sustainable change in the world. And sometimes it's as easy as knowing thyself. I'm back. Welcome to level 2. Your impact, you can laugh, it's fine, on those around you. Shall we proceed? Yes. Y'all are awesome. Anyway, I'm back. Hello. Welcome to level 2. Your impact on those around you. So level 1 is all about understanding who you are. Connecting to yourself, connecting to your values, connecting to your goals, your vision that you have for yourself and how you see the world. And doing the deep inner work to take away all the things that you think are necessary when they're probably not. But what it allows for you to do, by really connecting to self, it allows for you to be more compassionate, more empathetic, less defensive. An ability to learn more and unlearn when it's necessary, so that you can begin to actually show up for the people around you. Level 2 is about changing our relationships and the power that we have to change our relationships with those around us. Those around us could be family, friends, our peers, our coworkers, people within the first 2 levels of our circle. How many of you know that science has now actually proven that we absorb each other's energy? Did you know that? Isn't that crazy? So you could be sitting next to someone with having an extremely bad day and you just cop an attitude. And you're like, why am I angry? I was so happy, but now I'm angry. Why is this happening to me? We absorb each other's energy. So as we're absorbing each other's energy, wouldn't it be kind to check your energy before you entered a room entered class, enter a friendship conversation, enter a relationship conversation. And that goes back to level 1, right? Knowing and owning who you are. Because we know how the ripple effect works. Think about it. You have a friend that comes on campus and they're just so angry at the whole world, and you're just trying to like live in your happy bubble, and they just pop it and say, why are you so happy? Nobody needs all your happiness. And you're like, dang, I'm just trying to live my best life over here, and you're just bringing your negative energy. But then that changes your mood, it changes your attitude. And then you move to the next person, and you change their mood and you change their attitude. And sometimes it's not as simple as just changing the mood and changing the attitude, as in like, oh, now I'm angry. But what can anger do? Hurt people what? Hurt people. So it becomes this ripple effect that you didn't even know that you had on somebody else. You come with your attitude, give someone else an attitude, and they do something negative to someone else to harm them. You, as that singular person, would never even know how deep that ripple was. And we don't think about that as everyday leadership. Every day, title or no title, just showing up in community as a part of the collective. We tend to forget that we are impacting people's lives every single day that we wake up and show up in the world. Every day. So the real question is, are we having a positive impact or a negative one? Am I here to create positive change or a negative change? Because impact and change doesn't mean it's always going to be positive. And that's something that I had to learn. I talked a lot about being the change too. But what kind of change is that? What kind of change are you actually seeking to be? When we think about social change and social justice issues, they seem so big, right? And we're trying to tackle them from over here. And we never really think about as like that's the macrocosm of social change and social justice. But on the micro, what are we doing to influence that change? I'm gonna bring it home. Up, owning your energy. This is me. I like totally skipped over that slide, but I'm gonna move on to this Starbucks incident. Does anyone remember this happening? It was about a year ago. Did anyone see that? Okay. So Starbucks had an incident at one of their Starbucks, and it was a woman, a white woman, who decided that day that maybe she woke up on the wrong side of the bed, I don't know, that she's gonna let her biases take over. So she called the cops on 2 innocent black men sitting in the Starbucks. I don't know if she realized what her ripple effect was going to be by calling the cops that day. And it could have ended a lot of different ways. But she called the cops, these men were arrested, and it caused not only a national outrage, but a global one. People protesting in the streets. Single woman, single action, giant ripple effect. So much so that it caused Starbucks to have to try to clean that mess up. But for good, right? They closed down all their restaurants on May 29th to have racial bias training, which is probably something they needed anyway. So that was a good outcome, right? Negative outcome, backlash, caused 2 men to have to be arrested for no reason. Again, that outcome could have looked very differently, but changed the course of their life forever. One phone call. So to think that you don't have the power to spark change and spark a movement by one action is silly. It's a lie that we tell ourselves so that we don't take responsibility for our little piece in the humanity and planet puzzle. One action. Do we know her? Give Greta a hand. So Greta has been in the news a lot this week in particular, for good and for bad. But also in May 2018 was a busy month. Greta was sitting outside of her parliament in Sweden, by herself, alone. She striked for climate change, all by herself. Because she as an individual wanted to do something. I'm sure she only thought that maybe this will inspire a couple of my classmates to come join me at Parliament once a week or once a month. Fast forward a little over a year. September 21st, 2019, that's last Friday. Australia, Pakistan, Uganda, Croatia, New York City, Denver. 163 countries, 4 million people. 1 year. One single human sparked a movement. This is me. In Denver last week, I was there for a speaking engagement and decided I was gonna go climate strike too. I have a 4-year-old. And I want to ensure that this planet is here for her as well. That she will have clean drinking water. That there will be animals and insects that are still here. People still here. So yes, I'm going to fight for her and all the little people too. I didn't even know Greta a year ago. That kind of change can happen when we get really clear about who we are, what we want, what we stand for, and what we stand against. That's level 1. But then when we understand how that impacts those around us, we can spark change and spark a movement just like that. She's back. Welcome to level 3, your impact on humanity and the planet. Shall we proceed? Yes, I like it. So what we saw from Greta is level 1 and level 2. At 15 years old, 16 years old, if you read that girl's Facebook post, you're like, dang, you are an old soul. You know a lot about the world and a lot about yourself at a really young age. Because people are coming for her. And she has to be ready. She has to have conviction in who she is and what she knows about herself so that they can't shake her in her movement for this world. So she understands her impact on the world around her. She understands that she has an impact just by showing up, that she's positively influencing people every step she takes. And that ripple effect is her impact on humanity and the planet. Greta's one human. She can't be in 163 countries at the same time. 4 million people on one day, and I think I saw yesterday, she was in Montreal, 500,000 people in Montreal came out to climate strike. That's a lot of people. One girl sitting outside her parliament 1 year ago, her impact on humanity and the planet will last forever. Whether or not it all works out for us, I don't know yet. But her legacy is there. So this level 3, we understand who we are. We're constantly doing that work because understanding who you are is continuous. You evolve and you change. You will not be the person you are today 2 years from now, guaranteed. And then 2 years later, you will change again. I feel like I'm like a butterfly every 2 years. I'm like, who is this person? But what you do gain is that every time you are in this butterfly effect, you take those lessons and that power from the time before, and it compounds on each other. I know that humanity and planet work is hard work. It is tedious at times. It makes us feel like, can we even put a dent in this? Can I even do this? Again, asking those questions, can I do this? Is it in me? Am I here to lead? How am I going to actually create change? But you have to remember that we are all a collective, right? We're in this together, whether we think so or not. And really, it always comes back to you. What am I doing today? How am I checking my energy today to show up in this situation the best way that I can? How am I finding my place in the cause? Where is my place in this work? My uniqueness is of value. Because as I show up, I will change humanity and the planet for the better by changing my ways, changing my habits, and then leading by example. You do not have to have a title, a position, run a business, or an organization. You really could just be yourself and then be better. That part's important, okay? You have more in you, guaranteed. There is more for you to do. So the question is, are you going to do it for good? Are you going to make a positive impact or a negative one? I want us to do something. I want us to imagine a different world for a moment. So what I'm going to have you do, because I like you to participate with me, y'all know who I am already, okay? Don't act brand new. Close your eyes, and I can see y'all. So don't make me call you out. Close your eyes. You can trust me, all right? I want you to use your imagination. If the world could be any way that you wanted it, what would it look like? What do you see? I want you to bring it even closer to home. If you could be who you really wanted to be in this world, what does that look like? Who are you? What are you doing? How are you contributing? I then want you to go back to your communities. Go back to your home. What are they doing? How would your community be set up if it was a perfect, ideal world? What does that look like? What's happening on the streets? What kind of businesses are popping up? How are people treating one another? And then take it out further. In your state, nationally, what are we doing? What would be on the news? What will we be saying to each other? I want you to really imagine. Because everything starts in our imagination. The world that we have today was imagined by a lot of different people. And in order for us to change the world in a more positive, sustainable manner, then we have to reimagine what's possible. What does the world look like? And how are you going to change it? You can open your eyes. So I want to leave you with this. You're all here to do amazing things, you know that. But the change ultimately starts with you on a deeper level. Every day in every way, I want you to be more conscious of how you show up in this world. Before you go ahead and give your friend all the attitude, be like, is this the best version of me? Tiffany said that I need to be the best version of myself. Is this the best version of me? Or can I do better? Yes, I want you to see my face when you are thinking about this. Do better. And I want you to realize that you are here to lead. You can lead from where you are right here, right now. You don't need anything else than yourself. Because we have a responsibility to humanity and the planet to connect, grow, and become the best versions of ourselves. So when I say here to, y'all know y'all about to participate, I want you to say lead, all right? Here to? Lead. Oh, that was so whack. When I say here to, you say lead. Here to? Lead. Here to? Lead. When I say here to, you say lead. Here to? Lead. Here to? Lead. When I say here to, you say lead. Here to? Lead. Here to? Lead. FAU, you have been amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really do appreciate it. I will be here to answer any of your questions. If you want to hang out with me after Juan comes and probably wraps this thing up, you can always follow me on the socials, Live with Tiffany, and let me know how you are here to lead, because I am here to support you in any way that I can. So thank you so much.
Stop until I make you mine. You know that I won't stop until I make you mine.
Let's give it up one more time for Tiffany. I think one of the biggest things that, if you heard her message, she talked about that legacy piece. And a lot of us talk about, what legacy I want to live. But I want you to take it one step further and think about what legacy you are living today so you can leave it for tomorrow. All right, what legacy are you living today? So give yourselves a round of applause, because yes, we know it's been a long day. You've hung out with us, you've been with us, you've made it, you survived. Some of y'all fell asleep, it's all right, but you're still here right now. All right, so let me see. The biggest things that we have coming up or not is the assessment. This is the link that you can go to, or you can use a QR code. Or if you have your OWL guide open, at the bottom of the schedule, the link is already there. The link is already there. If not, this is the website you want to follow, baseline.campuslabs.com/FAU/iLead 2019. There's a QR code you can scan. You can use your OWL guide as well. We want to hear the feedback from all of you to let us know, 1, how can we improve? 2, how can we do better? And 3, when it comes to iLead, for the 13th annual iLead, what can we do better for next year's group? We want to strive, we want to do bigger and do better for all of our groups as well. All right? Let us know how we do that. Thank you for the music. It was a little